So here we are with another Marc Ribot style lead lesson. This time we're not necessarily staying within the realms of what Marc might play himself, but more digging into his influences and dialing them up to 10. Also adding some more of my own influences in there, players like Jim Campilongo and Bill Frisell. Essentially this style is all about blending various roots styles, like early blues with some gypsy jazz, and then some slightly more avant-garde, experimental jazz flourishes here and there, delivering it all with a tone that sounds to me like the angry side of rockabilly. Some overdrive, slapback echo, an amp that's about to combust. This is what it's all about. So we're in the key of C minor, we're starting on the 5 chord, G7, and to build tension we're going to quote a Django Reinhardt phrase, pretty much note for note, and then resolve to C minor. So straight away we're hitting some dissonance in a really pleasing way, in my opinion. Thinking G7, major third, sharp 9, flat 9, flat 7, flat 5, resolving to the 1, C minor. Now the way I really think about this kind of thing is through the lens of tritone substitution. If we're thinking G7, as you'll know if you've watched my video on tritones, you can change the bass note to the note of tritone away and substitute the G7 with this chord, the D flat 7. This is a trick that Django Reinhardt used a lot, and is fairly standard in the world of jazz, at least. Now I'm thinking about playing a D flat 7 group of notes over a G7 chord. In relation to D flat 7, I'm simply thinking of the major triad with a couple of extras, the flat 7 and the 13. Ends up being this really nice shape under the fingers. Looks like an X to me. You've got 11-9 on the B string, 10 on the G string, and then 11-9 on the D string. Sounds amazing over a G7 or over a D flat 7, where all of those intervals are a lot more polite sounding. The context of applying this over the G7 is what gives it the edge. So we're on a G7, but we're thinking of the tritone resolving to C minor. Now we're going to be on this C minor chord for a good 4 bars, so we're just going to stay within the C minor blues scale for the most part, and we're playing, trying to really hone in on our chord tones, thinking C minor. And then we're going to do that Hubert Sumlin sounding blues trick that we've used so much in my videos. So that's taking the top couple of strings, barring them at the 8th fret, still thinking C minor blues scale or minor pentatonic, sliding up from the blues note to what would be the 5th, and then come down the scale. Hybrid picking those top 2 strings the whole time. And then we really hammer in on this blues note to get some nice dissonance. And then we're grabbing the 9 on top. Go back to my original Marc Ribot video and you'll see we go into some real depth about this, grabbing the minor third and the 9 and letting them clash. To be fair, that's more the sort of thing I picked up from listening to Bill Frisell. Minor third and the 9. So now we've got this. Pretty gnarly. Now we're staying within the blues world, and we're grabbing this commonly used double stop. 11 on the top string, 10 on the B string. Bending the B string a little. And then we're coming down to the F minor chord. So we're immediately going to look for notes from that F minor triad. Got your minor third and your 5th. Really just using blues scale touches as well. I guess you could relate these notes to the F minor chord. Root, flat 7, 5th, to the minor third. Now this note is one I'm definitely targeting consciously. On this F minor chord I want to convey the sound of an F minor 6. So I'm honing in on that 6, making a point to grab at it. So we're heading back to the C minor, and we're doing it through this Django kind of sounding move of taking the 6 of the F minor, walking it down until you get to the root of your 1. You'll often hear Django bend, and we actually do that in a few bars' time as well. Now we're going to bring in some more dissonance using what I referred to in the previous video as spaghetti western textures. So we're on the C minor, just like before, we're thinking flat 3 and 9, only this time we're flipping it over. Flat 3 on top, 9 underneath, play them together. Sounds great. Super angular on your C minor chord. We're just going to hit that once, and then we're going to grab another real aggressive C minor sound. So it's a C minor 6 with a major 7 on top. And again, in that previous video, we went into a lot of depth about how these chords are generated from the melodic minor scale. So C melodic minor. Amazing sounding things. So we're just really using those two sounds as sort of piercing, sharp interjections to add some dirt to everything. You can get lesson materials for this at the link in the description. Come and join me over on Patreon if you want to get access to all of my lesson materials, plus some bonus content. If you'd rather not go the Patreon route, you can purchase the materials for this lesson alone. That's also linked in the description. Your support really does mean the world to me, and it allows me to keep making these videos and also keep improving on them. Now we still have a while left on this C minor, so we're going to climb up through some octaves. Again, hit very aggressively with all of these things. If we look at that as a single note, that's what we have. C minor-y stuff. Adding the octave on top. Now the next phrase is a real bluesy phrase. To me, again, this is very Hubert Sumlin sounding. Mostly blues scale, but with one crucial addition. The diminished on the 1 chord. So you're thinking C diminished in this case. And then slide down, maybe get rid of that bottom note as you do. And now you're on what resembles more of an F minor 6. Now we're just going to come down some C minor blues scale things. Again, make sure you deliver this with some chaos in the right hand. Allow yourself to hit wrong strings here and there. Down the C minor blues scale. Now we're going to use that trick we spoke about a few bars ago on the F minor, thinking about the 6 walking down to what would be the 5th of the F minor. We're going to do the Django thing of bending the note in the middle. And then thinking F minor, we can just, to finish this off and make it a triad, add 2 more things. And then we get into this run of things where I'm using some tremolo picking or strumming. Again, very Django-y. You don't have to do that. You can just let these things ring out and they'll still sound great. Let's look at the voicings. F minor triad. Same shape on the top 3 strings, 10, 9, 10. This is F minor 6, as we mentioned a moment ago. And then you've got another F minor 6 here. So now we're thinking a bunch of F minor-y sounding things. And then we resolve that down to C minor 6. So you're taking this F minor 6 and then coming down to this. So you're taking this F minor 6 and then coming down to this C minor 6. Lovely. I'll include a link in the description to a video where I go into some real depth on these sorts of minor 6 voicings. I'd recommend learning them as part of the 6th diminished scale or the Barry Harris scale. Now for this next part of the solo, we're going to switch to the bridge pickup for more of that stinging, biting, aggressive blues tone. And a lot of this part is really just C minor blues scale and C minor pentatonic. The first phrase we're going to play is this, where again we're using that thing of the minor 3rd and the 9 over our C minor chord. Now crucially, we're following the changes here. The chord goes to A flat 7. So we're going from C minor to A flat dominant 7. So we're thinking, what notes can we grab that would spell out that A flat 7 chord? So you want to be picturing your A flat 7 arpeggio off the A string. And think about that flat 7 as a target note. So now we're thinking this. You got C minor, A flat 7. Even this part here, these little tritone intervals are kind of the secret recipe behind your dominant chords. You know, the flat 7 and the 3. Back to the C minor, and again back to the minor pentatonic. Just a fairly simple blues run. Next we have the A flat 7 again, and we're thinking about what we have within this zone that we can grab. Flat 7 again of the A flat, octave below where we had it previous. We're also going to grab the major third with that, and we're going to bend up to the 5th. These are kind of country bends. If you think about an A flat 7 inversion, you could have this shape. This would be your third inversion. Flat 7, 3rd, 5th root. We're taking those lower 3 notes and essentially just bending in to the 5th and back. So now you've got this. Again, really attack those strings hard. Maybe use some rest strokes, a lot of down strokes certainly at least. Really go with some fierce energy. Now we're back on the C minor again next, and we're simply going to play this, which is just a C minor arpeggio, just the top 4 strings of your C minor bar chord, and then a bit of C minor blues scale. With this rake, maybe palm mute some of those lower notes, kind of Otis Rush style. Now we're back on the A flat 7 again, and we're going to play, again we're looking for notes from within the chord. Here's your flat 7 and your 5th, and then G7, where we can just move the same thing down a semitone. So this is one of those typical Tom Waitsy sounding blues turnarounds. Which is really great. You know, you're thinking about your 1, your sharp 5, then your 5, back to the 1. And the phrase sounds like this. Forgot to mention that on that G7, not only do we have those 2 notes, but we also bring in the flat 9 on the B string. Again, part of a diminished chord, G7 flat 9. Resolved to the C minor, courtesy of the root note. And then we just blues our way out of there. Again, attack hard, get some real percussive energy into those notes. So of course in this lesson we're just breezing through this, and I'm giving you a rough explanation of each phrase. But if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty, go check out my Patreon, where you can get hold of the lesson materials, and you'll see chord numbers above and interval numbers, and a little bit about what's being thought about within each phrase. Try and internalize some of these ideas and bring them out in your own blues playing. Spice up those blues sounds with a bit more of this sort of Django, Gypsy, jazz noir stuff. It really makes it sound mysterious and emotional. Now, one important thing to cover that we haven't looked at yet is the chord progression. You've got C minor for 4 bars. F minor, 2 bars. That F minor is your 4 chord. Back to your 1. Then we repeat all of that again. C minor. F minor. C minor. And then things get spicy. C minor. A flat 7. Same again. And then the turnaround. A flat. G7. Back to C minor. It's a really fun progression to play over. Now the final thing we're going to look at is the tone here. A big part of that Ribot sound is it's kind of like the rockabilly thing, but on steroids. So I'm going to dial in a bit of slapback echo. Just a single quick repeat. And I haven't got the mix too high. Next step, some overdrive. I'm using the Gritador pedal by Brown Amps. This is basically their take on a tube screamer, but it has a bit more bottom end, and it also retains more of that sparkly top end. Pretty killer sound. There's also a good helping of reverb on the amp. Also worth mentioning that this guitar is my favourite type of guitar. It's a Telecaster, but this one in particular is pretty special. Made by the great Carl Longbottom of England. Makes beautiful instruments. This is a fully hollow, incredibly lightweight Telecaster with a set of Radio Shop Telecaster ID pickups. This thing sounds so good. It's got everything you need. Fat neck pickup, sparkly middle, and then a biting top end. That bridge pickup sounds pretty wild. I love it. Yeah, so do check his guitars out. They're absolutely brilliant. I mean, look at the beautiful wood on the back of the neck there. I don't know if that comes across on camera, but it's kind of flamey. And again, it's so light, I can't get over how light this guitar is. So there we go, another study in the style of Marc Ribot. But do remember, this has scope that goes way beyond just his style. You know, we're bringing in elements from Campilongo, Bill Frisell, Django Reinhardt, Hubert Sumlin, Otis Rush. To me, this style, it kind of transcends any of those individuals. You know, this is just what I would call cultured guitar playing. You know, it's got elements of everything in there, from swing and country to blues and rock and punk. You know, this isn't Marc Ribot's style alone. This is the style of anyone who's grown up listening to all of that stuff. It sounds like a huge melting pot of styles that influence those sorts of players, and myself. You know, bring this into your own playing as well. You know, bringing in those gypsy jazz elements into a rock or blues setting are going to have a really interesting impact, and it can give you your own voice as a player. So I really hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Please do check out my Patreon, and also please do like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. It really helps me to continue what I'm doing here. Also, let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and put them down in the comments and I'll get back to you right away. And I'll see you guys next week for another lesson. All right, take care.